Hey, what's up, ladies and gentle tubers? Welcome back to the eveRide channel. Today, we'll shred through the spectacular Onion Creek in a monstrous Ford Raptor until I literally begged for my life. Then we'll head back to the Shaffer Switchbacks for some of the most beautiful footage I have ever captured. So enjoy this final behind-the-curtain look at commentary of the last day of the Making Moab adventure. And stay tuned because today's footage is so scenic, it will make you have happy peanuts. Alright, so before we get started, I wanted to show you guys how chock full of goodness this video actually is. There was so much good footage today. This is Vegas Pro 14, and on the left you can see my last video. All of the places where I have those little orange lines, those are markers, and I've marked all the good clips. Now we look over at today's footage, and almost the whole thing is just fantastic. So it's going to be really hard to edit and make it into a smaller video, but I will, and it's going to be an awesome cinematic. So I hope you guys enjoy this, and we'll have a little treat for you at the end. Alright, so here we start in a dual sport truck. Something a little bit different for my channel, but I figured it was worthwhile because this thing is amazing. This is my buddy Colby. He's in the driver's seat, and Kalani is there to the right. Kalani's accidental broadcast, and we are at Onion Creek inside of a Ford Raptor, and that thing, as you can see, is just a freaking beast. It was, for lack of a better word, terrifying, and I'll tell you more about that later. Anyway, to get some of the best shots and to increase the range on the drone, I actually flew the drone from inside the truck. And you can see by how bouncy it is inside of the truck with the stabilization on the Sony. That's what's being filmed with right here, and Gabe's holding the camera. You can see that it was really hard just to sit still, let alone fly the drone. It was pretty tough. So, especially when we're bouncing through water and everything like that, I actually had to ask Colby to slow the truck down so that I could keep up, because there's a lot of interference inside of a canyon like that. Oh my gosh, but the footage still ended up pretty good. There's a near crash, just so close. And I'm glad I didn't lose a $1,000 drone right there. But I had to ask Colby to slow it down a little bit, and I think he was okay to slow it down. You can see some of the cliff edges here as well. This was not a safe place to be going super fast. So I think Colby slowed it down for two reasons, both so I could film the truck with the drone, even though the shots aren't super dramatic, but also so that we wouldn't, you know, crash to a fiery death. So anyway, Ford Raptor, it's an amazing truck. People compare it to a side-by-side, but bigger and in truck form. And I've actually never been in a side-by-side, but if it's as fun and as frankly terrifying as the Ford Raptor is, then yeah, I'm a fan. It's a pretty good time. The suspension was amazing. The power was incredible. It's just, and the sound of it, the sound was amazing. But anyway, the clips here are really like bouncing around. There's not a whole lot of, okay, hold on, I gotta pause. These are these hippies that we found, and it was hilarious because we'd race ahead in the Raptor because we were going pretty fast, and then we'd pass these guys. They'd pull over for us. We'd pass them. We'd fly by them, and then we'd get out, set up camera stuff, set up the drone, whatever, and then they'd pass us like moseying along, and the guy was like riding on top of the Jeep and whatever. Anyway, it was just funny because they were just so absolutely strung out, but having like the best time of their lives that they'll remember it forever, or they won't remember it at all. I don't know, but anyway, back to the thing about the clips bouncing around. There was so much yaw in those clips because it was so hard to control the drone with any kind of precision that, I mean, the camera on the drone was just going left and right, and it looked really bad. So the clips from the drone are a little bit scatterbrained in this one. Keeping the drone really smooth is probably the hardest thing about flying anytime, whether you're standing still or whether you're in the truck. You can see Kalani, he was pretty cool. He was looking out the window and kind of like calling it for me so that I wouldn't run into anything, because I was trying to get the side view. Here we ran into the hippies again. Anyway, I was trying to get the side view, and there's no way to see if I'm going to run into a cliff while I'm flying sideways. You can see how bumpy it is in there and how fast we were going at times. Now granted, that's not like rally car fast, but to me at the time it definitely felt like it. And it was funny because I actually felt a lot more calm as I was flying the drone, because I could, first of all, tell Colby to slow down a little bit and have a good excuse for him to do that. Second of all is my mind was off of the cliffs that we were going by in the car and drifting next to. It was like probably the closest to death that I've been in a very long time. And right now is not so bad because there's not huge cliffs, but coming up there was some enormous cliffs and we were drifting really close to them. Like, we looked at the tracks and it was like just inches away. And so, little story coming up, I pretty much turded my pants and decided that I was going to get out of the truck. But anyway, the yaw on the drone is the enemy, and it's kind of like less is more on a drone. You want to use a drone because that smooth flowing footage that's also moving, so it's not just like a tripod in the air, but it's moving, it's panning, it's alive, which looks really, really cool. That's why people love drones and why they love aerial shots from helicopters and stuff like that. However, any yaw from the drone just totally ruins it. You can see Colby you know, fighting with the steering wheel there, just keeping things under control. There were times when we got like sideways going into rocks. You can see him putting on his seatbelt there, nice and casually, gets himself a little drink. I mean, this guy is pretty calm, cool, and collected. Later in the day, he was riding right next to cliffs, which was scaring the crud out of me. But he has no scruples about being pretty daring. So anyway, back to the drone. It is a little bit terrifying, and you don't get a lot of really good shots when you can't fly it very well. I mean, we were bouncing around so much. Here's back outside the truck again, obviously, with the drone, and footage is looking pretty good. And you can see I'm clipping it a lot, because all the times that I'm not clipping it, that's when I'm just getting crazy on the yaw. And so really with the drone, even though that movement is so cool, the smoother the better. The more, you know, streamlined and silky things look, the better. And sometimes when you're adjusting things to keep the truck in the frame, for example, like right there, I wanted to yaw right. And I did a little bit and it kind of wrecked the shot. And right here I'm yawing right very slightly, and you can see kind of that judder. I don't like that. I wish that I didn't do that. And a lot of people are like, well, you know, who fly drones and who know the settings, they'll say, well, adjust your settings so the yaw isn't so intense. Well, first of all, it's in sport mode. Second of all, every time DJI updates these, there's an ear miss. Every time DJI updates the drone or the controller or has some kind of firmware thing going on, every single time it resets that. And so I want to just learn how to do it at their default settings, because trying to go back to the settings every single time it updates, which seems like every time I fly, is really irritating. But anyway, I did get some smoothness, and in the final cut, I think what I'll do is I'll actually stabilize the footage, and that gives kind of a weird effect. It gives kind of like a falling out of the sky effect, a little bit more like an airplane instead of like a drone. Where the things tilt and stuff like that. There, I'm catching it. But anyway, it does take away those sudden jerks of the yaw on the drone. Look at my face right there. That is my face of terror. And what's funny is I look very similar to my brothers, and that is also their face of terror. So I know that's like the face that my brothers make when it's like, I'm uncomfortable with this situation. And that was the face that I was making. So it's pretty funny. Anyway, we got some nice slow motion shots, and oh man, look at the suspension travel on that thing. Keep in mind, it's a big truck, and so when the wheels are going up just a little bit, that suspension is really traveling. These slow motion shots are cool. Now here's the thing, on the FZ1000, which is the camera, it's my zoom camera, the one that I keep on my chest, the one that actually broke my sternum the other day. Actually, I broke my sternum by falling on the FZ. But anyway, you can see that the footage is a little bit shaky right here, and that's because in 120 frames per second, which is the high-speed photography, which means slow motion, in 120 frames a second, it automatically turns off any stabilization. And you can't zoom or focus in that well, you can zoom, but when you're recording, zoom turns off. And so that's kind of what we got. Here's Colby, You can see Kalani and I are out of the truck. We're filming, and Gabe is still in the back filming with the X3000, the Sony action cam, which is just a phenomenally stable little camera. Here comes the hippies again, cruising in their little posse of whatever. I mean, they were having a good time. I respect them for having such a good time and for getting out into nature and just enjoying the day with some illicit substances. But anyway, here we are cruising again, and you can see Kalani's got a camera up there. Kalani was holding a camera a lot of the time. He later used that camera and like posted it on the front of the truck, posted it on the bumper, and so you've got to go over and check out Kalani's channel because he will be releasing a video. He has way more footage than I do. I gave him all of my footage. He is the master of editing. Everything I know, I learned from him. So go over, check out his channel, and if he hasn't posted it by the time this video is up, get on his back and say, Kalani, hey, post the Raptor video, and get on his back and say, hey, post the vlog, and you'll see a little bit of that footage later. But here we are, the drone again. You can see me on the top of the ridge there. Kalani's also filming, and Gabe's at the bottom filming as well. As he was going down the ridge here, kind of slowing down, I took the opportunity to take a nice top-down shot of him. It's kind of cool. However, he is going kind of slow, just mellowing it out. And so in the final Raptor video, that is kind of the main video, I'm actually going to speed that up. And I'll admit that I speed things up sometimes. However, it's sped up by about 10%. Anything beyond 10%, and it starts looking a little bit wonky and kind of like it's not real. Physics don't work that way. Anyway, guys, so it was here on this ridge right here. I mean, it's a kind of a razorback ridge, and on this ridge is where he was flying. The hippies weren't there yet, but he was going really, really fast, and I started to feel really uncomfortable. And got some great shots though out of the truck. But I actually had to be like, hey, Colby, I gotta get out, man. I'm sorry, I'm not good with this anymore. And he looked back and he was like, are you serious? And I was like, yeah, dude, I am seeing the faces of my wife and kids, and that's like what happens before you die. So yeah, I need to get out. And then it was really funny because then Gabe and Kalani piled out too, and Kalani came up to me and he was like, dude, I'm so glad you said something. I was pretty freaked out too. So we were all happy to be out of there. It's funny because when you're the driver, it's a lot easier. But anyway, there it is, landing the drone after everybody knew it was some pretty good footage. There's Colby giving a little shaka there. Everybody's happy that we were able to get that footage. Here's the camera from Gabe's perspective. He is roaring around those corners. You can hear the truck too. It's such a mean, beastie truck. You see that suspension flex. And something I didn't expect is the squeaky tires on the dirt. Now here is up on this meadow here, and it's actually Colby that's filming. He's holding the camera right here, and he's cruising along. Here we got the drone out. Now this meadow, this clearing, he could get going about 100 miles an hour. He said he was going about 110 miles an hour down this road. Keep in mind the drone can go about 42 miles an hour, and he blows past the drone like it's standing still. He's kind of taking it easy right here, but even then you can tell he is moving. And that shot, man, that shot is good. But it's kind of cool. This is the Onion Creek Road. It's part of the Utah Backcountry Discovery Route. But so there's the Onion Creek area with the canyons and all that stuff, and then this is kind of the top of the mesa where you come in. So little tidbit for you there. But here he is again. It's funny because when you get a spot like this and you get the drone out, you can just go back and forth and back and forth. The tricky part is what shot's going to be the best, because you can't overuse the location. Otherwise, people are going to be like, well, that's just all shot from the same exact location with the same drone shots and everything like that. So it becomes a dilemma when you have, 20 minutes of battery life, and so you don't necessarily want to bring the drone in because you don't want to go on a spent battery on the next drone flight. It's just a little bit tricky. So I just told him, keep going back and forth. We actually had a charger in the truck, and so I was able to charge one battery while the other was going. That's why there's so much footage of the Raptor right here with the drone. There he is cruising past. Gabe gets a nice shot there. Road's in in the center of the frame there. You can see the suspension flex there. He is moving. That dust cloud looks really cool too. Oh man, that truck is just, it's just a monster. See, you can hear there a little bit of the squealing tires. It's interesting that tires would squeal on dirt. You can see Kalani's out there in the middle of the road. Brave, very, very brave. A little out of focus there, but that's okay. Anyway, so here is on the way back. And, you know, I'm just poking the camera out the window, and I always think it's going to be good footage. However, it's just not. I always try it, and it's never been any kind of decent footage to put a camera out the window. Even though the landscape is phenomenal, this is a little out of the timeline here, but even though the landscape is phenomenal, there's that a little too much shake, and it just doesn't look so good. Here we are close to the entrance of the dirt road to get to Onion Creek, and a little parking lot there, and there's a jump up here that you'll be able to see him hit. The hippies are down there. You can see their cars. Here he goes. There's the jump right there. Now that jump looks pretty weak sauce, especially from this angle. But when you're in the truck, it feels like you're in the air for like a minute, and everything starts floating, and it's a weird sensation to be inside of a car that is flying through the air. So, but it's pretty cool. We had him do it a couple of different times just to burn the battery on the drone. We thought, why not keep the battery going? So he was flying around these corners, having a lot of fun. Those four-wheelers were kind of getting in the way. They were riding pretty unsafe, like drifting around corners and stuff like that, without a spotter. Now, people are going to be like, hey, you were too. But we actually did have a spotter. Will and Nick went ahead on their motorcycles, which I'm a little bit jealous that they rode this on the motorcycles, but I still had a ton of fun in the truck when I didn't feel like I was dying. So Nick and Will did go ahead on the motorcycles and kind of spotted for us. And if there was traffic coming, they would stop and turn around and come back and slow us down. So that worked pretty well. Anyway, you can use the drone because it has a gimbal on it. You can use it without the propellers going, obviously, just to get little shots like this. It looks pretty cool. And then here we had like 20% battery left, and I thought, oh, I'll just go ahead and film it outside the thing. All right, now the stuff that most people are used to on this channel. We've got the rear view camera going out of Moab. I have to say, I don't like Moab that much. It's kind of a greasy town. Everything is way overpriced. I just don't like the town of Moab. The surrounding area is wonderful. That's probably why it's so expensive and ridiculous. So right there, you probably noticed that there was a color change. And you hear me laugh right there because I knew it was going to be a great shot. So there's going to be a color change up here too. What's happening is I've shifted tracks. Okay, so that's rear view, but I've shifted tracks. One track is color corrected, and then the other tracks I didn't bother color correcting because they're not going to make it in the final video. So right here, it's going to shift. Boom, see that? Because that is a shot that I want. Kalani's nice and close. It looks cool. Now the shot's over, so it shifted back to the thing. And there I am. I'm doing hand signals to everybody else that's not on the scene as with us to go ahead, to kind of race ahead. I wanted to get people on the front camera and on the rear camera. This is sick. That's Colby there showing us the wheelies. Kalani's getting it done with a couple little wheelies. Still getting used to him. He's been off the bike for a while, but he's normally like the wheelie master.
Shaffer trail from the bottom. Take
1, 2, 3, 4.
Oh no, I lost it. What's that wire?
So this is just kind of, people helping other people with their cameras, checking lights, checking everything like that. It's always a shame when a dual vlog's going on and somebody's camera isn't on or there's something in the way and it just fouls it up. But, it's... Oh, Colby almost ate it right there with a low side and then flipped over to a high side.
That's close.
Anyway, there's the little rear view, the river in the background looking good. Kalani's clapping to sync up the rear vlog. Because I had two cameras going, and then we also had to sync up the audio.
I won't tell.
Don't tell. Hold on, I'm gonna lose you. I just totally stalled.
Alright, so at this point in the ride, it was really fun because Kalani and I started to do a dual vlog. And Kalani's actually a really awesome host for a dual vlog. He had all kinds of questions already prepared. And it was really cool. So, I mean, combined with the footage of Moab and then Kalani, who is just an outstanding videographer and just a fun guy. It was a really cool dual vlog. So again, go tell Kalani to release the dual vlog. And you know what though? He's like a super busy guy, so don't get on his case too much. But Kalani, if you're watching this, if you don't have time to do it, send your footage to me, upload it to my Google Drive, and I would be happy to make the dual vlog for us, because that was a ton of fun. I'd probably leave it fairly raw just because we had such a good time. And you could probably tell at the beginning of the vlog it was funny because I was starstruck. Kalani's like my YouTube hero, so I was like, oh my gosh, it's Kalani. So I'm like trying to be funny, I'm trying to be witty, and it's just not coming out like original or funny at all. And I just felt like kind of a tool. But then as we continued riding and as the conversation just started to flow and be natural, it happens every single time. Every time, no matter who I'm with, it just becomes like, you know, a brotherhood, and people are riding, you're having fun, you're just having a conversation, you get to know people. And you know, it can be Kalani, who is like, you know, my YouTube hero, or it could be Kurt, who's a YouTube hero, or it could be, you know, somebody I've never ridden before who I have no idea who they are. And it just ends up being a really, really great time. So that was pretty cool, and Kalani's a really cool guy. It's oh, there's a little bit of air for you there. But it is cool back there, you know, Kalani with a lot of clapping, a lot of take 1, take 2, take 3. He's very, very organized because he takes an enormous amount of B-roll. What you see here is kind of what you get. I mean, I cut out of a lot of just the boring parts, but what you see from my videos, it's generally every clip kind of makes it in, even if it's cut down. Kalani is taking hours and hours and hours of B-roll and main footage and audio. I mean, he takes it really, really seriously. So it's pretty cool. That's why he's got to keep it so organized. I should probably be a little bit more like that and just be prudent with the editing and delete things that I don't need. But I should be filming a lot more, so I get a lot more of that cool B-roll. So I get more of the nature shots. It seems like I get a lot of just kind of riding shots like this, a lot of front camera shots. Rear camera shots, I don't have that many today because nobody was close enough. There's a nice slide in from Colby there, and this was funny.
The spot he's standing on is terrifying my brain.
Oh, well, yeah, if you've seen my channel, you know I'm probably no help on a tire.
Alright, so here we have these fine gentlemen here working on a tire on their Hondas. It was kind of cool. They pulled up, a little bit of a funny story. They pulled up on their motorcycles and they were just kind of like staring at our group, and we weren't, it was kind of like, it had like almost this weird old-timey Western showdown feel to it. And I was just kind of trying to break the ice, like, hey, well, how do you guys like the trail? How do you, how do you like Moab? And just kind of small talk. And they did, kind of short answers and just like this awkward feeling. And then one of the guys was just like, you're eveRide. And so that's always a little bit unexpected that people recognize me or know who I am from the videos or anything like that, but it's still kind of cool. So that was kind of a cool icebreaker. They were from Louisville, and Will and Nick are also from Louisville, so they talked a little bit, and then I asked them to come and film on this awesome scenic cliffside here. You can see that guy on the back is those two guys are both guys on the Hondas. Pretty cool. And so something that was a little bit sketchy, you'll notice that there's kind of like this weird axis roll, and the drone honestly had a mind of its own right here. It was pretty frightening, and so it was not under my control during some of this time, which was really scary, because if it were to fall off of that cliff or just fall out of the sky, which it felt like it was going to do, it would have been bad. That's not recoverable. And so I was pretty cautious, but in the end it ended up working out really, really well, and the shots were fantastic. Anyway, here we have a little trick of the camera. This is zoomed into 1080 on a 4K image, and here's it's going from 1080 back out to 4K, coming out there because there's like that flicker on the right side of the screen from the propeller chopping through the sunlight and making it look ugly. Now, this was kind of a scary drone flight for me, but I was at the same time extremely stoked. I mean, it was just gorgeous footage. I was really loving it, but the problem is the drone for some reason had a mind of its own, and it started just like going this way and that. It was out of my control. Oh, there's where the sun shines through. It was so cool. Anyway, it was pretty sketchy during parts of that.
Take 3 from the top of the cliff after the drone shots.
Great.
I think on this one, Kalani actually wasn't on. We were having a good discussion. We were talking about Moto Mansion, and Kalani does a little Airbnb thing in Maui too, little income supplement, which is kind of nice, and helps his buddies with the motorcycle rental business and whatnot, so it works out really well. So as we were riding along here, I was starting to get pretty nervous because the sun was kind of going down behind the cliffs. And in some areas it was pretty bright, in some areas it wasn't. Oh, check this out. So right here, I'm going to look over my shoulder and I'm going to freak myself out because I don't know where I'm going. I'm trying to get that shot, and then I get freaked out and I have to snap my head forward and make sure that I'm not going to go riding off the cliff.
Oh my gosh, that's so steep down there. Yeah, I better not fall to my death. My wife and kids wouldn't appreciate that. Oh my gosh, look at the... Oh, that's a trip!
Anyway, that's the first time I'd ever been that close to that edge, and that's a pretty dramatic edge. It's really cool. Kalani's whipping by, and like I was saying, I was nervous that we wouldn't get to the Shaffer Switchbacks by the time the golden hour hit. Because we stopped again right here, and I'd filmed from this location before as well, with my buddy Levi, who used to live in Maui. He knows Kalani and has ridden with him before, and he's really good friends with Kurt. And so Levi moved to California, and we rode the white rim, not the white rim, but we rode the Shaffer Switchbacks and the Potash rode to the Shaffer Switchbacks together last time I went to Moab. That was the footage that I got. Anyway, I was getting nervous because the sun was kind of going down. Now, people have asked, hey, how did you fly the drone inside of a state park? That's illegal. Well, here's the thing. I never got the drone inside of the state park. I was outside the whole time. Potash Road, I believe, is a public road. And so I was able to fly all I wanted along that road, which is amazing. That's an outstanding and just gorgeous scene there. You can see on the yaw, I kind of botched it a little bit. But the shadows and the light bouncing off of everything, it just makes for amazing, amazing footage. And I feel a little bit conflicted because when you have so much good footage like this, you wonder, like, what am I going to do with all this? Because really, so much of it is just absolutely spectacular, and I can only use a little bit of it. So a while ago, I made a video about ways that I make money from riding motorcycles, and one of the ways that I haven't tested all that much, but still seems legit, is by selling stock footage on like Adobe stock footage. I can't remember the name of it right now, but yeah, so the clips that I don't use in my video, and maybe even some of the clips that I do, I can sell, and so it's kind of nice. Anyway, there is Colby. Colby is a daredevil. He has like no regard for personal safety. He will get right up to the edge, and I'm glad that he didn't get to the edge on that one because you can see it's kind of like a cornice thing, which is pretty intense. All right, so this shot, I love this shot right here. I love the contour of the cliff edge right there. It's just so cool. And these guys are just cruising along. Gabe's getting pretty dusted, but he's cool with it. Gabe's just a total stud. I feel kind of bad right here. So you see the guy in the car right there, and you see the tripods on the edge of the cliff. He is actually filming some time-lapse footage, and so I was like really conscientious not to get the drone into his time-lapse. I saw where his cameras were pointing. I knew where the frames were. He was totally cool with us flying the drone. He understood. But on one of those final shots, I felt really bad because I did get the drone flying up what could be in frame. I'm not sure what his interval was between shots on the time lapse, but I really hope that I didn't ruin it for him. He seemed like a really cool guy, and he'd been there all night or all day, and he planned on being there all night to continue those time lapses. So he was very dedicated to his work. You know, I'm sure that if he cut out a frame where if the drone got in there, it wouldn't be harmful, but at the same time, like if you're there all day and all night and then some idiot comes by with a drone, that's going to be frustrating. Anyway, so here we are cruising towards the Shaffer Switchbacks, and I was nervous that we would miss the golden hour, that the sun would go down before we got up there, because that's kind of like the highlight. But here's the thing. I would rather have had the drone out outside of the national park. Right up here around this bend is where the national park actually begins. And so I would have rather had the drone footage. See that sign to the left? That's the national park. So I would have rather had the drone footage by the river than any static shots or any bike shots, even if it's the golden hour by the cliffside. I think the drone's just that much more dynamic. It looks so much better. The river is right there close, and there's no river by the Shaffer Switchbacks. And so, you know, I think that is actually the official entrance. Anyway, but so I was happy to have the drone there, and you know, if I was going to lose the light, if I was going to lose the golden hour, I would have much rather had it on the cliffside with the drone than up at Shaffer Switchbacks and miss some of those drone shots, because those drone shots are just fantastic. And it actually ended up, luckily, you know, we were deep in a canyon at this point, and when we got to the top of the switchbacks, the sun hadn't gone down at the top of the switchbacks yet, so there was still plenty of good light left. You'll see it. It's amazing. So, you know, this is the road going up to the switchbacks, and we're just having a good time. We're not really pushing it. We're not trying to go faster than we need to. Still on some cliff edges and whatnot. It's pretty. It's just a gorgeous ride. There's so many unique rock structures and everything like that. It's almost like an alien landscape. So anyway, there is a question that I know is going to come up. There's a comment that I'll see because I see it all the time with a lot of these videos. And the question probably is going to be, why do you keep going back to the Shaffer Switchbacks? Why do you keep going back to Ouray, Colorado and doing Imogene? And you know, you've already made videos there. Why do you keep returning? And there's a couple of different reasons. The first reason is, like, you know, when you're hungry and you have a budget, you go to the restaurant that you know has really good food. And then when you're at that restaurant, you might try different things now and again, but really, when you know what the best thing on the menu is, you're going to eat that thing every time. So the way that I see, you know, riding in these locations is, I know the restaurant's Moab, and I know the meal, and the meal is this, because there are meals, so to speak, in Moab that aren't that great. There are trails that just aren't that spectacular. And, you know, the second reason tags right on along with that. But, you know, I had guys from Louisville, Kentucky, and from Maui, and from, you know, all over the place. We had guys from Vernal. We had a lot of people who had never been to Moab before, and they'd never seen the Shaffer Trail. They'd never seen the Switchbacks or Potash Road. And so I wanted to take them to the absolute best, you know, scenic ride that I knew at the right time, at the sunset, the golden hour. And if I didn't do that, if I did some adventurous trail out there somewhere, we might have had an adventure, but you know, it's a little bit risky. I wanted these guys to see this. I wanted them to enjoy it. And I'm really glad that I went back here because they loved it. And then the third part is, you know, as for making the videos of the stuff, I know you guys have already seen this footage. However, I'm back there with new cameras. I'm back there with a new drone. I'm back there at a different time of day. And all those things make for a unique experience. So even though you might have seen the location before, you know, on film, you just don't get the whole experience. And so as long as I can change it up enough to make it look, you know, substantially different, it's going to be better. So right there, I was daring Kalani to get close to the cliff edge so I could get a good shot of him. And, you know, peer pressure on a motorcycle is never really good, but peer pressure on a motorcycle with a camera is maybe even worse. So I was there, you know, being the devil on Kalani's shoulder. Hey, get closer to the cliff, Kalani. Get a little closer to the cliff. Anyway, he obliged, and it was really cool. I'm glad the shot worked out. And it's kind of funny because this shot, I know that it's just going on and on. It's lasting for a while, and it's because it's just so good. I mean, the whole thing, there's not a second that goes by that I'm like, oh, I should cut that out because it's not cool. I think the whole thing looks good. And so it goes back to the drone thing. Sometimes with the drone, you just get too much good footage and you don't know what to cut out. The same thing goes for the front camera. In an area like Moab, it's just, that's what's going on. So there's Kalani ending the dual vlog. That will hopefully show up on his channel, or hopefully show up on my channel if he doesn't have time. There's Will and Nick coming in, and we're going to park here near the top of the Shaffer Switchbacks. And you guys, The camera is just not gonna do it justice. It just doesn't even come close to what we were actually seeing. The light was spectacular. This view over the edge of the cliff was unbelievably good, and everything was just bathed in this almost glow of purple and red and orange. We had the clouds, you got the San Juans in the background.
Oh my gosh, that takes some
It was just
stones.
absolutely incredible. There's Colby going right by the cliff.
I don't know
Again,
how I feel
no
about
regard
that.
for personal safety.
No, we gotta
But,
be going down the thing now, so we
I knew we had to get going down the trail because we were running out of light, and you don't want to be on the Shaffer Switchbacks without light.
At the closing ride of the closing day is that was sick. The whole thing was amazing. What a way to get back on the bike. Oh man, and we got some cliff action going on here. Beautiful scenery. Look at the sky. This doesn't get a whole lot better than this. I love it. This is why you come out riding, and to meet amazing people. It's the best of all worlds. Getting out in nature, meeting amazing people, seeing incredible things, doing things that scare you sometimes. It's the essence of life. This is about as much living as one can do.
So there's my little moto vlog of how I was feeling at the time. Just like extreme gratitude as I was cruising along. Just, you know, whether I was filming or not, it's just absolutely a gorgeous experience. You get to meet people, you get to ride in amazing places. It's a lot like, it pretty much sums up the video that I made this last week, where I talk about these 4 pillars of wellness. You know, there's the physical, the social, the mental, and the spiritual. And this ride in particular, I could absolutely feel that it fulfilled all those things. I was riding with friends, I was getting a good workout on parts of the trail, and then there was intellectual discussions where we talked about business and things like that, and then there was just this spiritual feeling as we hung out there at the top of the cliff, and there was no religious discussion or anything like that, but it really was just kind of this awe and respect for nature and just the amazing landscape that we were in. It was really a great thing, and the funny thing is I wasn't even aware of the 4 pillars at that point, because I hadn't gone to my therapist yet. But anyway, so this is pretty cool. You know, just looking back on this footage, I don't even know how to describe it. It's just zen. It was really a cool experience. So spiritually, I felt recharged. And then obviously, you know, we'd been riding hard for several days. I felt worn out at the end of every day, including this one, even though the ride was a little bit easier. But just all 4 of those pillars of wellness were totally taken care of. It was just an amazing experience. I loved every single minute of it. And what's funny is people are like, well, would you go back? And I would go back in a heartbeat. I would go back to show people this trail. Even if I was on my own, I would still go back to the Shaffer Switchbacks. I think they're that good. However, the White Rim Trail, even though the whole thing is amazing, I would actually, you know, if you're on a dual sport or if you're crunched for time, I would say go up the Potash Road and, you know, go see the Shaffer Switchbacks, and then go down as far as about Musselman Arch, and maybe to the first vista. But then after that, it's interesting because it's, you know, the law of diminishing returns in economics. Oh, it's a beautiful shot. But the law of diminishing return in economics is like your first bite of ice cream is going to be better than your second bite. Those bites will be better than your third. And the more ice cream you eat, the less appealing it is. And the same goes for the views on the White Rim Trail. And I know that's kind of a jerky thing to say, but it's the truth. If you have a whole day and you have a long range on your bike, yeah, go ahead and go do it. It's an amazing trail. If you don't, then I would just go do, you know, what I said to do, because then you're kind of getting a highlight tour and you're still left in awe. You're not tired. You're not desensitized to the views, I guess is what I'm saying. So anyway, we're going to finish it off with a little bit of a funny thing that happened. We're cruising along. I'm focusing on the camera, and
ooh, I'm going in a rut. Neutral, that's why. Oh.
with the stall. Oh man, that's good stuff. So anyway, guys, that is the end of the video. Let me get you over here so there's not crazy backlight. So you guys, I promised a little bit of a goodie for you if you made it all the way to the end. And that is, if you like videos like this, I'm happy to continue making them. The problem is that videos like this kind of flop on the channel. They're hurting the stats. I'm not bringing in as many people in as I'd like to. The music videos, it's a big, huge surprise as well. The music videos are an enormous flop. They're only getting 3,000 or 4,000 views per video, which I'm guessing that YouTube has a policy where if you use copyrighted content, they're just not going to promote your video. Oh, sorry, I'm almost going to sneeze. Anyway, so you guys, I want to continue making behind-the-scenes videos like this, and I want to continue making music videos that are just for fun. Maybe not as highly edited as the ones that I've put out the last couple of days and the ones that's coming out soon, but I still want to make them. So here's kind of the situation, and here's the bonus for you. Whether you're a patron or not, I'm going to be posting these types of videos to the Patreon page for free for everybody to watch, but it will be published on my Patreon page, nowhere else. So whether you're a Patreon or not, go and check out Patreon, be on the feed, and just kind of stay tuned for any videos like this. Anyway, guys, that is it for me. Thank you again so much for watching. Much love to all of you. Had an awesome day, and go tell Kalani to do something with that footage. We'll talk to you guys later. eveRide out.